welcome back to the Daily Dive. Today we're chatting with Bruce Linton, who needs no introduction, but in case you've been under a rock, he is the founder of Canopy Growth, and today works with various other names from tech to psychedelics to cannabis. Hey Bruce, welcome to the Dive.
Hey, good to be here.
So let's start with cannabis. We're going to ask you to take out your crystal ball here. How do you forecast the regulatory environment playing out in the US over the near term?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a bit interesting, right? They have to be careful what they wish for, because everybody's saying we want Biden to federally regulate that. Now, what's that mean? Do you want him to tell the FDA you're in charge? Probably not. Do you want him to tell every state it's the same? You think you're seeing mutiny at Capitol Hill? Try that. So I don't think you're gonna make every state the same. So I kind of think what's going to happen is the low friction route, which is going to say that the states are in charge of each state and whatever they choose is federally permissible. So if you're having a party and medical, terrific. That's okay. Which should mean that anybody operating in those states where cannabis is whatever regulatory framework are now no longer federally offside, which should mean they can list on places like NASDAQ. And if they can, it doesn't have to become federally legal. It has to be federally permissible for many companies. That was wording we use. So if that becomes permissible, the effect should be that the stock should rip. If what he says is, I'm just going to decriminalize it. Well, it's good that people may not go to jail, but it doesn't mean there's anyone in charge. On a decriminalized system, are you eligible to list on an exchange? I don't know. Do you walk up and say, I'm now doing something that's not illegal? Well, is it legal? Well, no, it's just not illegal. I don't know how that argument turns out super well. So I kind of think that he's going to go a little slower than people expect and do it a little better than decriminalization. And I think that he's been clear when we saw the memo of his priority items. Nowhere on that memo was turn XL Pipeline into huge bong. No, it was cancel XL Pipeline. It was not manage cannabis.
So you're also involved with Gage Cannabis, which we're now reading will be a hot new Canadian issuer in 2021. What can you tell us about Gage? What's the timeline for going public, and what exchange are you eyeing for the transaction?
Yeah, so Gage is an absolute gem. So Gage is a cannabis company that is domiciled and focused entirely in Michigan currently. And it's been in the history of Michigan in terms of producing cannabis under prior models and has been at the forefront as they evolve. So what it has is vertically integrated production, processing, meaning it turning it into finished goods, and a diversity of retail stores, including brands called Cookie. So with those three things, what it's able to do is direct drive, grow top line, capture margin, and know what's coming next. And with that, it's just seen astonishing growth over the last 12 months. And we did what's called a Reg A financing, which think of it as a financing where the audience is your customer base and other places, who want to write a check. And I would expect we'll be in potentially this quarter listed likely on the CSE. And that's just a function of final steps. But it's really, I picked that one because I loved how they had spent their cash starting about a year and a half ago to build terrific assets. If what you build you hope to own forever, it should result in very profitable operations because you're not having to sell, replace it time and again and stack. It's durable. And so they build durable value, in my opinion.
You are also involved in an Australian listed cannabis company, Creso Pharma. What can you tell us about this name and why did you choose to get involved?
So it's always hard to follow the bouncing ball in a lot of these. So it's listed in Australia, which is terrific, fine. But what I really liked about it the most was that some of the brightest minds that I saw working on animal care products worked at Creso and were doing that work in Switzerland. And so it's my view that the company, while they have operations in other countries, I think have the sort of products that people are going to want. And you say, well, why do you think that? Well, especially during COVID, like suppose you said, you know what, I really deserve a dog. Good luck. You need about $5,000 to buy a dog and you got to wait in line a year because everybody got a puppy because everybody's home all the time. Well, what's going to happen is we're not going to be home all the time in about 6 months. That dog you got, you're actually going to have named and become attached to. And when you go out the door and slam it, it's going to be about a half of them or a third of them are going to go nuts, chewing couches, peeing, pooping, barking. It's called anxiety when the owner's not present. I think there's a line of animal care products premised upon cannabis that had a great opportunity before that are going to have a bigger opportunity. And I think if Creso can get those into the right markets, meaning all North American markets with the right partners, that should be a ripping product line, because we spend a lot of talking about parties for adults and helping grandma and grandpa. Um, it also works pretty well with your four-legged friends. And I think that market will almost pay anything if we can keep the dog and not have to say, dog has to go, it's wrecked my apartment. Nope. Keep it calm, keep the dog.
So, Bruce, we know you're also involved with some psychedelic deals. What advice do you have for retail investors when trying to sort through some of these names?
It um it depends what you're looking at. I like two things, and they don't fit in the same basket. So I like to have one, visibility of immediate or short-term revenue, meaning how are they using the current framework where it's not illegal, say the Netherlands, or maybe pick some of the areas like Jamaica or Brazil where they can actually go in and turn a revenue, or they're going to take clinics and deliver. So there's names like I'm involved with Red Light Holland, but there's other names like Field Trip that have a short-term path to revenue and potentially profitability. The other one is the longer trip. And so what I'm looking for on those is, do they actually have a big market they're going after? And do they have a way to differentiate their molecules? Do they have a process for clinical trials that can be expedited? And how big is the market? Right? Like, so I don't go, well, I like psilocybin or don't. I like LSD or I don't. What I like is, can you manage the molecule and can you have a really serious chunk of market? And so I'm involved principally right now with one called MindMed, but I'm also an investor in one in Denmark called Octarine. And what I liked about both of them is that they intend to be successful over a longer time horizon at a really big goal. And they have the scientists and the chops, because anybody that tells you, we started it on Monday and by Friday we think we'll have dominant science research, I think is probably, a little concerning. And there's a lot of names coming out right now.
So, you're also getting back to your roots with some tech names. One that looks interesting is Ruckify. How's the development and platform coming along?
Well, this beautiful chair I'm sitting in is a Ruckified gaming chair. I'm not much of a gamer, but I didn't have a home office. So the whole idea of Ruckify is two things. One is, if you own assets, you're not using them all the time. Like, you're not using your stepladder to your paddleboard, to your chainsaw, to your mixmaster. Why are you not monetizing them? And so in a recession recovery mode, which we'll be in for a while, if you own things, you should probably see cash flows off of them. The other side of it is, if you buy everything you want, you might as well just dig a huge dump for your own stuff and ruin the planet, because everything you buy eventually ends up in its formation. So a paddleboard everybody wants, so they can go out in the river or the lake. Well, they're designed to be like indestructible in the sun. And so when you make them, they're horrific footprints. Why don't we share them? You can't use them all the time. So Ruckify is the rental platform that allows the people with the things to, at a very inexpensive price on a frequent basis, rent them out, get picked up by a car, taken away like an Uber, think of that. And the people who don't have the things but want the experiences to get them cheaper than buying, don't have to store it, and know that they're not demolishing the environment so they can go paddleboarding. And so it's starting to catch on quite well. We plan to be listed by the end of February. And what we need to list for is not necessarily the money. I just raised about 6.9 million bucks in November, but it's so that we have visibility, because you can't trust, use, and benefit from something you never heard about.
So, last question. With everything you're working on, how do you manage to balance your time for family and friends?
COVID has been quite an eye opener for me. I was super imbalanced before, right? Like, I had about 35 pounds more fat than I currently do. I slept too little, and I didn't think about anything other than work. I didn't really eat properly and that stuff. So it's been a hard reset. And for me, what's going to happen is, I want every company I'm involved in never to go more than 25% of their prior maximum use of travel and living. So if you're going to go, plan to go, but don't go as often. And the reason is, we've all been productive through COVID, and the world's lost about 7% carbon emissions. Companies have done better by not wearing their staff out flying everywhere. And so it's helped me reset, but then it makes me think about, why would companies not reset carefully, not extinguish, but rebalance? Airplanes became effectively like taking a taxi for most people, including me. Why don't you actually be a little more thoughtful and go less frequently and be more productive and not be as tired? So it's been a reset, and I think we should all say, what's the new normal we want, so that we're not as tired, we're more productive, and the planet actually has blue skies. Because part of the reason we're having a funny color video for me is the sun is so alarmingly clear and bright because there's almost no pollution in the sky near me relative to, I think, what might have been the prior norm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Bruce.
Oh, that's good. Nice. It looks like you've been home enough to look after your plants. You're doing a good job.
Yes, I am. I wanted to make it look like vacation in here.
It all helps.
And for our viewers at home, don't forget to click that subscribe bell below. We'll see you next time on The Dive to talk all things small caps.